A complete vehicle rewire can be an intimidating task, but our classic update kits break down the process in a way that makes it much more approachable for the average home mechanic. This process will vary significantly from vehicle to vehicle and will not be the focus of this video series. The first step in any classic update installation should be to disconnect the battery and remove the factory harness entirely to provide space for the new harnesses supplied in the kit. The dash harness is the core of our classic update, and is almost always the largest part of the individual harnesses. This harness contains the fuse panel and will be the connection point for the engine, front light, and rear body wiring. The fuse panel mounting location can also vary quite a bit depending on the vehicle application, but in the case of our 1969 Camaro, it will mount in the factory location. Prior to mounting the panel, be sure to install the fuses provided in the dash loose piece kit. Once the fuse panel has been attached using the included mounting screws, move the dash wiring into place and install the switches into the pre-assembled connectors. You may find it helpful to add a few zip ties to help keep the harness organized once the wires are in place. In most cases, the switch connections are pre-built for you. In this kit, the headlight switch and floor dimmer switch are all provided and can be installed once the dash is in place. Next, plug in the horn relay, along with your brake switch and wiper switch connections. We can start to work toward the center of the dash and the console. Route the wire to the parking brake switch and install. Route the wires for the console, but we'll save the console itself for later in our process. In the case of this kit, we'll install it along with the rear body wiring. Install the cigarette lighter feed and glove box light, followed by the heater switch, resistor, and heater lamp. Please be aware classic updates do not include wiring for factory air conditioning, but in many cases we can supply factory AC wiring for General Motors vehicles. We have a separate video covering this process linked in the description below. For aftermarket air, the brown heat/AC feed wire will supply 12 volts to your interior control. You will need to check the aftermarket air conditioning instructions for where the American Autowire heat/AC feed wire will connect. To wrap up the dash, install the courtesy lights and radio wires. Classic update kits will not include any speaker wire, but will support modern radios with both memory and ignition wires. With these connections in place, most of the dash wiring is now complete. The steering column and gauge connections will require a little bit more customization. We intentionally leave these sections open-ended since the parts are frequently changed or upgraded from stock. All of our classic updates include the later model 69 and up steering column connector. If you're using a stock column or column with any other connection, simply cut the wires at the connector on the steering column side of the connection. Crimp the provided male terminals and index the connector according to the kit instructions. At this point, the connector will install into the pre-wired mate in the dash harness. With the steering column complete, the standard under the dash items are finished for our Camaro kit. Additional circuits for add-on items can be sourced from the accessory connector pigtail found near the fuse box. The mating plug for this connector comes pre-installed onto the pigtail and must be removed prior to use. Available circuits will differ from kit to kit, but this connection is the perfect 12-volt source for things like electric fuel pump relays or accessory harnesses for power windows or seats. If you do not have options like these in your build, the connector can be left in place. Finally, the gauge cluster is the last major connection in the dash wiring of your classic update. We include an instrument cluster disconnect with each classic update kit. One side of this connection is built into the dash wiring, and the mating connectors are found in the instrument cluster subkit. This means the kit is compatible with either factory or aftermarket gauges and allows the cluster to be wired outside of the car for an easy installation. The gauge cluster portion of each kit will be unique to the vehicle, so it's important to review the instructions as they will differ greatly from model to model at times. In the case of our 1969 Camaro, we provide new terminals for the factory warning lamp pods, new lamp sockets, as well as a connector and signal wire for the tachometer. Once all the wires are connected, the cluster pigtail can be plugged into the mating connectors on the dash harness. This process is the same for aftermarket gauges, with the cluster wiring being the input signal to any type of digital gauge set that uses a standalone controller box. We also have a video covering that type of installation, and that is listed in the description below. With the gauges installed, the dash wiring is complete. This finishes one of the biggest portions of the Classic Update installation and allows the other body harnesses to be plugged in and routed. We'll cover those in the next several videos. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can also stay up to date with American Autowire by checking us out on Facebook, CarBuff Network, Instagram, and AmericanAutowire.com.